it's a tricky thing because I think a lot of people see those parts of the Bible that they don't like, and they go, oh, I can't buy into the rest of this because of, X, Y, Z, and it gets tricky. I know, like in I don't know how familiar you are with the Dune novels by Frank Herbert, but
I read a few, but it was a long time ago, so I'm not super.
so in that, and maybe you can tell me what you think of how if this would be possible or wise. In the Dune universe, they have an ecumenical council set up, and they take basically all of the I don't know what they define as the best parts, but they take the best parts sort of all religions and turn them into the Orange Catholic Bible as this one unifying sort of thing. Do you think it would ever be useful to try and do something like that with religion, just to appeal to more people and unify, or do you think that these things are part of a bigger pattern, and if you pull them out of there and say, well, we don't like when Moses told them to go kill all those people in that town or something, that's not good, we got to pull that out, do you think that would start to unravel the entire thing?
I think it would start to unravel, and I think that it's really important to keep those dark stories in the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you have to keep those dark stories because, God. First of all, God is not it's not your sugar daddy. Like, God is the absolute, manifestation, the absolute infinite, the absolute non-dual infinite that, and sometimes that non-dual absolute infinite appears as a raging fire. It's like, I don't know why people are bothered by that. It's like people read the Bhagavad Gita and they're like, oh, this is amazing. But then the idea that God would appear as this raging like fire, like, it totally bothers them. It's like, dude, are you like, how can you get those two things to coincide, man? It's like, but then that's not all God is. God is everything and nothing and above all categories. And so you need to keep the darker stories in the Bible because they act as this balance also to think that you've got it all figured out. And that's one of the like, I'm going to get into trouble by talking about this, but one of the problems with, in my opinion, with Islam has been that they try to eliminate all the weird stories in the Bible. Like in the Quran, they say that they rectify the Bible. And so all the weird stories, like the stories about incest and like all the kind of stuff that you're like, oh my goodness, this is really dark. They just took it out because they want things to fit in a nice box. Whereas when you read the Bible, it's so complex and you're like, how the hell is this possible? Like, how is this possible that this is happening? And you kind of do it, approach it with a kind of generosity. Then sometimes it just hits you, like it just smacks you. And you're like, oh my goodness, this is what this is talking about. And it's not telling me to do this. No, it's trying to show this huge pattern. And part of the pattern is the things that don't make sense. Some part of the pattern is the fringe and the margin. And I talk about this a lot for people who want to that's one of the reasons why I'm talking about this now. Like, a lot of the talks that I give are about this idea of things that don't fit, the idea of the margin, the idea of the periphery, because it seems like that's at the same time, that's what we're dealing with in our society today. But it's like we're dealing with it and we don't know how to deal with it at the same time. And so to kind of talk about these issues of things that are weird and don't fit, like, I think that's helpful today.
I think so too. Yeah, it's interesting how, like, I wouldn't expect to watch. I mean, there's some movies that I get great meaning from, and that are just wonderful, and whether it's Star Trek, Star Wars, whatever, things like that I've derived a lot of value from, but I never expect them to be 100% puppies and kittens and all that. But somehow with religion, and I don't know if that's because everybody keeps trying to argue that it's just this big thing of peace, and then someone goes, well, yeah, but this part isn't peaceful. But I don't know why we do that with, in particular, like you said, with the Bible versus, someone could go read the Bhagavad Gita and be like, oh, sure, yeah, no problem. They don't have any objections to massive holy wars or anything like that. So it's an interesting double standard, I suppose.
But we're in like, it's weird. Like, we're in a self-destructive mode. Like, our whole society is in this self-destructive mode. And when you're, and it's really at the end, like the end of a civilization, you see that all over the place. Like, it's like, when the Vikings, when the Germanic people came down to like, start chopping heads in the Roman Empire, the young people were dressing like Vikings. Like
Yeah.
they were the elites were complaining that the young people were dressing like the Northmen out of this kind of rebellious spirit, you know? And so it's like this we are at this point where we hate our culture, we hate our heritage, and we're just trying to like evacuate it as much as possible. And then people they like, you know, it's like you get these people who like hate Christianity, hate organized religion, and then they're like, oh, but I'm really into tantric, you know, Buddhism. It's like,
Right.
what the hell, man? It's like,
Yeah.
are you serious? Like, have you read any of that stuff? Like, I don't even want to criticize tantric Buddhism, but it's like if you've actually paid attention to what this stuff is saying, it's like I don't know why you're bothered with like these stories in the Old Testament that are
Right.
strange or that are violent or that are kind of or that represent the infinite as like this kind of raging thing. It's like I don't know what to tell you, man.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I think if we had better people out there explaining these things, I mean, more Petersons, you know, it would definitely help, because that's what it took for me to kind of start coming around. I'm kind of embarrassed at how simplistic my view was before, and how much I attacked these things that had great value and really hold up our system in a lot of ways. And certainly there are problems, but we don't want to just, you know, throw out the baby with the bathwater, as it were. And it's a real issue these days for sure.